Welcome back to Let It Rip. You know, you've seen the ads on all the stations in town. Lots of fire coming from both sides. The question is, as a voter sitting on your sofa right now, are you swayed at all by the shots fired between the blue and the red? Joining Charlie and me on the set here, David Dulio, political science professor at Oakland University, and communications specialist and PR guru Matt Friedman with Tanner Friedman. Good to see you. Let's dig into this right away. I just saw the ad today, you know, Proposal 3. There was an anti-Proposal 3 ad in which they have actors, seemingly what look like actors, acting confused about Proposal 3. And it got us thinking, does this stuff really work, Matt, when it comes to these ads? Are people at home going, yeah, that is confusing. I agree with this ad. How does it work?
You know, I don't know how it works in politics exactly, but I can tell you that in business, when we talk about building reputation and building brand for a company, or even for a person who's a front person for a company, we talk about authenticity and trust. So when you tell me about commercials where the people are obviously actors in a state of 10 million real people, that sounds like phony baloney, and I don't know how anybody is going to be swayed by that. Maybe it affects them somehow, but I don't know how that's convincing. It's something we would never do in business.
Well, David Dulio, when you take a look at this as a political guy, as someone who studies this stuff, what would be more effective than pretending to be confused about an issue? Would it be to just be clear and say this is why you shouldn't vote on something?
Well, I think the word of the night so far is authenticity, right? And I think that that's what this particular ad is lacking. But to your global question about does it work? Absolutely it works. It is the political consultants, the media consultants, they wouldn't do it if it didn't work. So, you know, we're going to see tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars spent in Michigan over the next 6 weeks on these ads, and they wouldn't be spent, those dollars wouldn't be spent if they didn't work.
Charlie Langton, when you look at some of these ads and then you go talk to the people who are walking around in Metro Detroit, is there a disconnect there?
No, they love these negative ads. They work. Remember the sleeping judge one time on the Supreme Cliff Taylor? He's a sleeping judge. Somebody caught him sleeping, and they ran that ad, and of course the guy lost. What about they brand Tricky Dick? What about Crooked Hillary? I mean, I could go on and on. There's a whole bunch of them. And now there's the abortion ads right now, the pro-choice, pro-life. They're going wild on this stuff. But the bottom line here is that, yes, it also gets the public upset, I think. And I think when the public is upset, they do go out and vote. Because they're saying, wait a minute, this is so phony, I'm going to vote for the other guy. There may be a negative effect, but the bottom line is it does get the electorate somewhat interested and make them vote.
Well, go ahead, Dave.
Well, and Charlie, we need to get you into our poli-sci classes at Oakland University because you just described the empirical evidence of political science on these on the question of ads really well. People remember quote-unquote negative ads more. People are often motivated to vote by negative ads more. We often see in you know, the negative ads get thrown into the most competitive races, which is where we see the highest turnout. It's an energizing force to some degree.
And you know what? Real quick, but I'm seeing the negative stuff now in fundraising. So on you know, I get fundraising. You hit me up for money for the Democrats, Republicans, it doesn't matter. But you know, Nancy Pelosi will say, if you don't send money right this moment, Trump is going to take over the world. Oh my God! And then the Trump people are saying Nancy Pelosi is so bad. It's negative, but they're doing it now in the fundraising arena. So it's not just on television or radio or whatever. It's raising money, and I guess it works.
Well, Charlie, David, Matt, if these negative ads really do work, you take a look at what Governor Whitmer's doing right now, and she's coming out swinging on a positive front. Every one of her ads has feel-good music. The scenery is pleasant. The lights are bright, and it's talking about a brighter future. Matt, when you see that, does that work?
I think that's more in line with a business-like approach. But I'll tell you something about the negativity that we know from working with the media business. Political negativity is a multi-billion-dollar business in this country, and it's not just during election season. It's 365 nights a year on cable TV. Really, the energy that you get from a negative political ad is the same energy that you get from watching a cable news channel talk about politics night after night after night. So I think we're talking about something embedded in the culture. What the governor's trying to do with a positive ad is put a positive light on the current situation in Michigan and cut against the grain a little bit culturally to attract that person who maybe doesn't like politics but is afraid of change.
But who are these ads really centered at? Because if you really look at an ardent Democrat, they're voting for Whitmer. If you look at an ardent Republican, they're voting for Tudor Dixon. I don't know any Republican out there who's like, oh, I'm a real big Republican, I'm going to vote for Whitmer. David, who are these aimed at? The undecideds, right?
You know, well, ads are aimed at a couple different groups. One is persuadable voters, right? So that's where you see, I think, the biggest effects with negative ads would come, right, where people are persuaded to vote for one candidate or the other, or in the Prop 3 case, to vote for or against it. Ads can also be about turning out the base, right, and energizing supporters. So when Governor Whitmer comes on and is talking about her accomplishments, right, that might be aimed at some folks who, some Democrats who aren't ardent Democrats, but maybe soft Democrats who need to be reminded of maybe why they voted for the governor in the first place 4 years ago. I also think those positive spots that she's running reflect the current context of the race. Frankly, she can afford to do some positive advertising. She's ahead.
She's the incumbent.
She's the incumbent. Plus, she's got some third-party groups that are coming in and spending on her behalf or spending in support of her campaign that are really doing the dirty work for her.
That's the
political action committees, right?
You got it. It happens, but it's rare that the candidate is the ones saying, "My opponent is so bad, and I approve this ad." That doesn't usually happen. It's the concerned citizen society, is what Dave's talking about.
Yeah.
The professor is right. It's not going to be the candidate, and then when you have a whole bunch of third-party people doing this, yes, be nice. I'm the nice guy. But again, you run a little bit of the fakeness there too. I think the candidates do know that your friends are running the negative ads.
Well,
and
sure.
So they should be asked those questions.
And it's worse. It's worse when they come out and say, "I don't know anything about these advertisements."
I don't know who these people are.
That's not my campaign, right? That seems a little disingenuous.
We don't have any debates anymore. There are no debates anymore. These candidates rarely. How many do we have?
Well, we have two. We have the governor doing one in Grand Rapids and one in Detroit. But
when
coming up? Well, after
no, you got to do it. We can vote today.
Hey, just so you know, we invited Governor Whitmer and Tudor Dixon to do a debate on Fox 2, and unfortunately, the two sides didn't meet up in order to make sure they do it. Now, a debate would benefit who?
Well,
debate would benefit
that's some
Tudor
fear.
Dixon, right?
This is something I've heard out there, is that both sides are afraid of a debate because of what might be said that could get used in an ad against them.
Well,
and that's part of the culture that we're in today. Don't say anything that can be used against you. And that's, as a citizen, that's a tough place to be.
But doesn't a negative ad reinforce sympathy to the person who they're attacking from the group that absolutely loves that person? I mean, if you're attacking Tudor Dixon and you're a Republican and you're a Tudor fan, you're probably going, man, stop this already.
I think it depends on the specifics of the ad, right? But that is certainly one potential outcome. I also think it could make people scratch their head and say, boy, is that really what she believes, or is that really what her issue position is? And make them take a second look at that candidate.
Interesting stuff. When you take a look at what's going to happen as you forecast out here, they're spending a lot of money. Both sides are. Where do you see this headed in the next 3 weeks, 6 weeks, and 8 weeks as we move forward?
Rinse, wash, repeat. I mean, it's the same thing. It's going to be over and over again. It's ad after ad after ad, focused on campaigns that are maybe within the margin of error of polling, right? Ones that are competitive, but more of the same.
Go ahead, Charlie.
I think the ads. I think you asked the question earlier, but where do they target? I think the bases. If you're a pro-Democrat, if you're going to vote for Gretchen, you're going to vote for. It doesn't matter. That's probably about 40% of the people. If you're Tudor Dixon, you're about maybe 40, maybe a little bit less. She hasn't run before, but you've got about an independent base of about 20-ish%. My numbers may be a little off, but not too much off. So a lot of these ads at this point will probably focus on those independent voters. And then again, what's your name ID? And the thing about it, if the candidate is a genuinely kind of a nice guy, and you go negative on that person, it could have a negative effect. But you still have to target that independent vote and just sway them one way. A little catchword, something, and that will sway.
Something memorable. Does humor work?
Absolutely. And that's one of the best ways to take the edge off of a real nasty attack, is to try and poke fun at something. We've seen that work over the decades. That's been employed by political
But it better be good humor, though. Kevin Rinke ran an ad this last campaign where the zombies were voting or something.
Yep.
And I don't know. I talked to Kevin. I said, I don't understand your ad. I don't know. Who are you trying to get? Dead people to vote? I don't get it. But it didn't work for for him. So the ad's got to be real, as we all kind of agree on that.
Authenticity is key.
But I do